Holiday times can be hard. What do you make for your family members, especially when you know how to sew? And what do you get somebody when they have everything? So make them something this Christmas that is something that just keeps giving. It just keeps giving and giving, giving some more. Wow, that's a good one. And finally what I was looking for. Stay tuned to see how you can make one for yourself. Hey guys, it's Boki here from Juki Junkies and home of Gigi's Fabric Shop, and today we have another fun sew along. So this, however, is not a free pattern. We'll go over that where you can get the pattern here today, but this is such a fun gift giving project. It's perfect for wine, it's perfect for candy, it's perfect for candles, mugs, whatever. Let your mind wander, but this is going to be an awesome gift that you can make this holiday season. I would like to note really quick before we start jumping in on where to get the pattern and stuff, there's going to be a lot of supplies in this video, lots of pretty fabric, lots of things, notions, supplies, Juki feed, accessories, threads, all that stuff can be found on gigisfabricshop.live. That's actually our website where we do other live shows and host a lot of different events. So if you really enjoy these sewing tutorials and you want to see more of them, gigisfabricshop.live is a great resource for you guys to take advantage of. I personally go live 3 times a week, and I would even encourage you downloading the app, really. The app is the best place to shop. The website's nice if you're not really tech comfortable like that or tech savvy, but it's called Gigi's Fabric Shop, and it's 110% free for Apple and Android users. And this is actually a really fun little project I wanted to show you guys too, since we're on the topic of the fun holiday gifts. We just did this beautiful advent calendar together, which was a blast. This was actually a free pattern too. So sometimes on the shows I do different things and free patterns or patterns that I write, but this pattern was actually written by me, so we're going to dive into this, and I made it just for you guys for the holiday season. All right, so let's get started with step number 1, where to find the pattern. So there's 2 options on how to get this pattern. If you prefer to have a physical paper copy, you'll go to gigisfabricshop.live. The link will be in the description so you can get it there. Or if you prefer the PDF option because you'll save on any extra shipping charges, I would go to jukijunkies.com, download it, print it out yourself, and then you just pay for the pattern. So step number 2, let's gather everything we need to actually make the gift tote. So once you have the pattern, you're going to follow along the instructions of your cutting and the handles, and we'll dive into all that, but let's talk about what you need supplies wise. You're going to need 3/8 of a yard for the exterior and 3/8 for the interior. Keep in mind if you're using a directional fabric, you might need a little bit more, so 1/2 a yard would probably be a safe amount to get. You're going to need a 1/2 yard of Decker Bond, which is the stabilizer that's going to allow this bag to stand up really nice and tall, and also make sure that your Decker Bond is 45 inches wide too, okay? Following the handle options, I wrote this pattern to have 3 different options for the handles. The grommets that you'll see here, that's what I'm going to be doing in the tutorial. That's kind of the most professional look of this little bag, but if you want something a little bit cheaper, I did give you instructions on how to make little buttonholes or to do a actual handle on both sides. So again, today's tutorial will be the grommets, but you can decide following the pattern which one you'd like to do. So if you're going the grommets route, you're going to need 8 3/8 inch grommets, and you'll need the grommet tool to be able to install them properly. And then if you're going the grommets route or the buttonhole route, you will need some ribbon or some sort of string to actually create the handles of the bag, and I believe you need 2 yards of that. So that'll be enough for creating the straps, and then again, if you want to do like physical straps, just follow that along. It'll tell you how much you need. Step number 3, we're going to start cutting everything out, and due to this pattern being something that you have to purchase, I'm not going to tell you exactly what all the measurements are, so make sure you get that pattern so you know exactly what to cut your interior, exterior, and your interfacing as well. So let's go ahead and get everything prepped. Give your iron a really good pressing to make sure all those creases and wrinkles are out, so that way you can get an accurate cut. Take your time, cut everything, and then we're going to interface together once we have everything cut. All right, just so a little note for you guys for the Decker Bond, make sure that you're following along the instructions. You will need 4 pieces of this. I know you needed 2 exteriors and 2 interiors for your regular fabric. So there's those all nice and cut, but remember for this piece, for your interfacing, you will need 4. The last step is just getting everything interfaced after we cut, and then we're gonna go ahead and start constructing. Have those 4 pieces of your Decker Bond. 1 piece will go on each one. So you'll have 2 for the exterior, 2 for the interior. Right now I have my outside fabric. I'm gonna flip it to the wrong side. And when you grab your Decker Bond, you'll notice one side is kind of shiny and one side is more matte. You're gonna look for the shiny side because that's where the glue is gonna be, okay? It has kind of like a reflective coating to it. I don't know if you can really see it on the camera, but one side is very, very matte looking, okay? You're gonna place the shiny side down onto the wrong side because that's where the glue is. And you'll notice that this piece is smaller all the way around. That was intentional to help reduce the bulk. And you're just gonna go ahead and slowly take your time. This is the most time tedious part of this project. Just go ahead and interface all your Decker bonds to each one of your components, your exteriors and your interiors. All right, you guys, so just to give you a little eye view of what we just did, you should have your exteriors all interfaced, ready to go. And then you should also have your interiors nice and interfaced, ready to go. And then while we're here, the last little cut that you have to do, remember you have to decide what option you want to do for your straps. But since I'm doing the grommets, I do have to cut my ribbon. So you're going to be cutting your ribbon at 30 inches long. And you can use this one that I have in my hands right now is the 3/8 inch ribbon, because remember the grommets are 3/8. But you can use a 1/4 inch as well if you'd like to. I wouldn't recommend going higher than that because it'll like curl and it might look a little funny, although maybe half would work. But you're going to cut this to be 30 inches. All right, so we're going to start creating the boxed corners that are going to give the bag that nice structure to make it prop up. So now we're going to do the same cutting measurements on all 4 of our pieces. So get those ready and let's start cutting. So once you have your fabric placed down, you want to make sure that the wrong side is up because that'll help you be able to see the markings that you're going to draw. Follow along on your pattern to see how much we are boxing the corners at. Just make sure that you're proportionate, okay, on the top and the bottom. That's the same measurement. And you're going to draw these little squares just like this on both the left and the right side. And you're going to do this on all 4 pieces. And you're going to give this a clean little chop, just like so. All right, so just so you see a little visual of what it looks like, all 4 pieces now have our little corners boxed out. Grab your 2 exterior pieces and we're gonna get these sewn together so we can box those corners. You're gonna place them right sides together, right on top of one another, really making sure that the corners are matching up, the top all the way around is really on top of one another, because the more consistent you get it, the better result you're gonna have. Since we're using thick stabilizer, I really don't like to pin this. I'm just gonna use a couple clips to keep me together. And when you're following along in the pattern, you guys, you know, I'm just following along the steps. So if you're wondering where I'm at, I'm literally just going off of how the pattern was written. So you just clip these and make sure you guys read that important things to remember in the beginning of the pattern, because it just tells you some of the verbiage, what it means, right sides together, all that good stuff. But we are working with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So we're gonna go over to our machine and we're gonna sew this, oops, this side, and the bottom side, leaving this open and of course the top open as well. Now you're gonna grab your lining pieces and you're gonna put those right sides together just like so. Do the same process, pin around, and we're gonna sew all the way around right here and onto the sides. So we're working with that 1/4 inch. Approaching that bottom, so we're gonna do our little back tack. Pivot, back tack, pivot once more. So we have what looks like this so far. We're gonna press these seams open before we start boxing the corners. It's really just gonna help match up the seams a lot better, especially for the nesting. So the way I like to do it is I like to curl one side towards me and I like to press it this way first, just like so, one side. And I'll do that on this side first. Curl this side open like this. And then you're gonna flip this around and kind of do the same thing here so the seams are really nice and open. Gets it to lay nice and flat. And you're gonna repeat this exact step on all of the pieces, all interiors, all exteriors, just like that. Now, after you have everything nice and pressed on your exterior and interior, we're gonna create those box corners, and I'll understand why we did that. So I always think of this, it looks like a little fish mouth. It looks like it's gasping for water. So you're gonna kind of go into that little box corner, spread it open, and you're going to match the seams together. So the bottom seam and the side seam, you're gonna match those right on top of one another. And you see, while we press it open, this makes it really nice, so there's no nesting that happens here. I find it makes the matching up the seams a lot nicer. So you're just gonna grab a little bit of a little pin, and you're gonna go into the first seam on the front, poke it through, and then you're gonna kind of open it to really make sure you're matching up right in the center of the second seam, because that's how you really get them to be right on top of one another. And then just get a little clip, a little pin. And then we're gonna go over to the sewing machine and we're gonna sew this at a 1/4 inch. But while you're at it, go ahead and do your second little fish mouth here. Kind of grab those Put them right on top of one another. Make sure those seams are perfectly on top. Poke through one seam, make sure it pokes right through the middle on the second one, and then just clip it in place, and we're gonna sew these nice and shut. And then we're gonna repeat the same process for the lining, same thing, just grab it, match the seams, pin it. We're gonna grab our project, and whichever you can start with, interior, exterior, doesn't matter. We're just gonna sew that shut where we just clipped everything together. And we're gonna use 1/4 inch, really the piecing length, everything has stayed the same. I do also like to do a back tack stitch here, just because it's a high stress area. It's actually creating the base of the bag, so it is important that this stitch doesn't come undone. So we're just gonna do a little back tack right here as well. Finishing that off, and then you have one more side to do, and then you're going to repeat the same thing on whichever one you didn't do. So like for example, I started on my lining right now, so I have to go do that to my exterior as well. So, and make sure you're not sewing over any pins. Sewing over pins is a big no-no, you guys. It only takes one single time to sew over a pin and then throw the machine out of timing. I mean, maybe you've been doing it for years and you've just gotten lucky, but now that you know, I would try to avoid that at all costs, you guys. So it looks something like this. You kind of created a little box now for the bottom of the bag. This is what's going to keep it nice and stand it up. And now we're going to do the other one. Now we're moving into step 5. You'll notice in the pattern, this is where we say creating the pleats. Be mindful if this is where you're going to be adding your straps on this bag, you're going to want to read that note first. That's indicated in the pattern, but we're doing the grommet, so we're going to skip over that part. So you want to start with grabbing your exterior piece. You're going to turn it right side out so you see all the pretty side of your fabrics. And I did want to show you right here at the bottom where we matched those corners. Those seams are perfectly matched up with one another. And this is the area where we did our little back tack stitch to really ensure that those stitches don't come undone, because it's a very, high stress area to the bag. So right here, and look at those seams perfectly on top of one another. So now you'll see when the bag's nice and flat, it's very wide. We have to create these dents, that go on the side, so that way it kind of opens up like a bag. Open it up like this and start to pull the side with the seam towards the inside, like that. And you're gonna I grabbed this really awesome 1.5 by 6.5 inch ruler, and you're going to create a pleat that's 2.5 inches. So the way I like to do it is I like to just stick the ruler in and then go to about 2.5 there, and I'm gonna pinch this, okay, just like so. And you wanna really try to stay as straight as possible as far as you can down, so then it really creates a straight seam, because if it starts bowing out, it's gonna be really hard and very noticeable. So I'm just gonna start to pin towards the top right here with my hands, and then I'm gonna go in a little bit because I can already see it kind of going at an angle, so I really wanna make sure that that doesn't happen, that it stays as consistent as possible, nice and straight, and that's much better. You see that? It's a nice straight, clean edge. Clip these for just a moment, just to keep it nice, and it's kind of doing like a pressing effect here, and you're gonna repeat the same on the other side. All right, so this is the kind of finished look for right now. We have those sides pinned in, and you can always go in and check yourself by just grabbing your little ruler. And look at that, it's right at 2.5. So that's a really good place for you to kind of double check yourself, make sure you're staying straight the entire time. 2.5, perfect, and kind of to make sure that you're consistent, but you'll kind of be able to see it with your eye too if it starts bowing in on the sides or going out towards the sides. So there's that. So now we're gonna repeat this process for the interior. You grab your inside piece, your lining piece, but you wanna make sure that it's wrong side out, not right side out like we did for the exterior. You're gonna grab your interior lining and you're gonna keep it just like this with the wrong side facing you. Same concept, you're gonna open it up to the side, and now you're gonna bow that seam towards the inside. Okay, again at 2.5 inches, just grabbing your little ruler here, 2.5, and just kind of use your hands to help guide you here. I like to pinch this first spot because the top is the easiest, of course, because you have the ruler, just like that. And then you want to stay nice and straight all the way as far as you can down, really keeping it really consistent. So go ahead and clip that and then repeat again to the other side. Alrighty you guys, so you have your exterior facing you, the right side's out, you see all that pretty fabric, and then your lining piece is wrong side out. So once you have those pleats nice and created, I do like to give this a good press really to secure the pleats and create it nice and strong. So make sure you're content with it and that you are happy with the way that it's going all the way 2.5 inches in, all the way down on both pieces, just like that. Now we're going to grab both of our pieces, our lining and our exterior, and we're going to place them right sides together. So your lining is wrong side out, so you're going to want to make sure that you grab your exterior and you tuck it right in to this one, just like so, right, with one another. So the pleats are going to fall into one another, creating that natural shape of the bag, like this, right? So we're going to meet those seams together on the sides, just like we kind of did earlier when we were creating those box corners. You're going to meet those seams together first, just like that. They're already pressed nice and opened from prior. We're going to grab a nice little pin and we're going to pin those together because that part's really important for the sewing. So we're just going to poke that through. And this is just to hold it and make sure those seams are nice and together. So that's why when we pressed this, it was nice because it helped create this stronger pleat, okay? All right, so I just popped a couple pins here just to really keep those creased parts together. So you kind of see they naturally just fall in with one another. So adding little clips at the top will just make sure everything stays nice and tucked in. You're gonna wanna leave a little birthing area, meaning an open area, so we can turn the project right side out, because as of right now, you should only see all the ugly sides of the fabric, the wrong sides, okay? So if these are your pleat lines that we pressed down, you're gonna wanna leave a little bit of an open area here. I would say probably 4 to 5 inches, okay? So you're gonna sew all the way around and you're gonna stop here, keeping this area open so that way we can shimmy our hand through and turn the project right side out. Alrighty, so I just have the project in now and we're starting at that little point that we drew, and we're gonna be using that 1/4 of an inch just to sew all the way around. When you're starting here, make sure you do a little back tack stitch because that is a high stress area. That is where we're turning the project right side out. So just be mindful of your pin here, that you're not gonna sew over it. Just get a little bit closer. Use my finger to keep this nice and together. And just a 1/4 of an inch here, you guys, nothing too fancy, okay? All right, so we're approaching to that little indicator, letting us know to stop, and back tack stitch there as well. So now that you have that little space open, we're gonna turn the project right side out. Alrighty, so now we have something that looks like this. So through the little area that we left open, we're gonna shimmy our hand through, and we're gonna start to turn the project right side out. So it's gonna be something like this, and it's gonna feel like you're doing something wrong if this is your first time ever doing a project like this, but that's just what it takes. So I'm not gonna film this whole thing because it does take a little bit of patience, a little bit of time, but that's why it's important to leave not too small of a hole so you're not struggling too much, but this stabilizer is pretty stiff, so it will feel like pretty aggressive, but we're gonna give it a final press afterwards. So just turn your project right side out. So I just wanted to make a little note because in the pattern, I did write to leave your birthing section actually on the inside seam, which is totally an option. There's multiple ways you can do that. It's really nice to do it on the top because it does create a more seamless finish so you don't have to go in and stitch anything. I would keep that in mind for maybe what method you're doing. Like if you're gonna be adding straps onto the bag, I think actually doing the side method is gonna be a lot easier. But since I'm doing the grommets method, it made sense for me to do it this way because I don't have to worry about going in or like the straps being in the way or anything like that. It just made sense for me to leave a little birthing hole here, and then the inside is very seamless, so you have an option to do what you'd like. Alrighty, you guys, so we're just going around making sure we tuck it in so that way it's like the top really only shows on the top, the inside is only seen from the inside. And we're just going around adding a couple clips to really hold those down because I find that that makes it really nice and easy for me. And then your little birthing hole, make sure you tuck that in at a 1/4 of an inch so it's nice and cohesive with the rest, and just clip it all the way around, and then we're gonna sew the top shut. So at this point, we're gonna wanna make sure that we have a good matching thread combo so that way your stitches are really nice and seamless. We're just gonna go all the way around and do a nice little top stitch at about 1/8 of an inch, I would say. Make sure you change your stitch length to like a nice 3.5, 4, depending on what you like. And I'm just gonna pop one of these pins out. And if you know me, I always start doing my top stitching at a seam, so that way it's a lot more like seamless and we don't see where I kind of start and finish, because that's kind of like the side part, the ugly side that no one really sees anyways. Do a little back tack stitch just to keep the stitches nice and secure. And I'm just using my hinged 1/4 inch foot, and I'm just kind of eyeballing it and following number 5 on the stitch plate if anyone's wondering how I'm getting 1/8 of an inch. This is always how I do it. I just kind of follow the halfway mark of the foot. Oops. I feel like in sewing we should be wearing like safety goggles. Because like if a needle breaks, it could go in your eyeball, God forbid. I think last time I asked if anyone ever sewed their finger. This time is, has anyone had a needle or something fall in your eyes that's broken? That That sounds literally terrifying. I hope no one's ever had to endure that. You want to make sure you're top stitching at an 1/8 because remember, when we tucked in that little birthing hole, that was at 1/4 inch. So you got to make sure you do it smaller than what the allowance is, so that way you actually close it. All right, so now we're gonna sew down our little pleats that we created. That's why it was really nice to press out the pleats, because that way when we turn the bag right side out, you have an idea, an indicator where those pleats are gonna be. So where your little creases are gonna be, you're just gonna start really kind of finger pressing them, hand pressing them together to create those little bit more defined pleats there. And we're actually gonna sew our pleats down at an 1/8 of an inch from the top to the bottom. So what you're gonna do is from your pleats, you're gonna create a little indicator with a marking tool about 2 inches from the bottom. So I'm just using a little ruler there to draw a little indicator. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna fold the 2 layers together, so the inside and the outside, just like this. And we're gonna sew at an 1/8 of an inch all the way down to that indication to stop. Okay, so kind of just start finger pressing. If you wanna clip it, you totally can, to maybe just keep it a little bit more defined. Make sure you're catching both layers. So now we're gonna sew those pleats down, stopping at where we drew our little line. It can be about 2, 2.5. I mean, I wrote 2 in the pattern, but you wanna just, that's a pretty good indicator for you to stop, okay? You don't wanna go all the way down because that defeats the purpose. So we're just gonna go under the sewing machine here, starting at an 1/8 of an inch, so like right on that edge, okay? And I like to start where the little top stitch was, so then that way it's nice and seamless. Maybe you can just pop your needle down, okay? Do a little back tack stitch there, nice and steady to secure the stitch. And then we're just gonna sew right on that edge. And this is really gonna bring the bag to life. Like, it's really gonna give it a good shape, okay? My little indicator to stop is right there. And then do a little back tack stitch when you approach the end to lock the stitch. All right, so I'll trim that, but you see how that really creates a nice, clean, crisp edge. Once we do all the corners, you'll see how that really perks up the bag, okay? So we're gonna repeat that on the rest of the remaining 3 pleats. So as you can see, once you have the little corners all nice and sewed down, it really starts to define the shape of the bag. So now all that's left, if you did the grommets option, if you didn't do the grommets option, you are done. Or if you do the buttonholes, we're kind of at the same step here, you just had to add those. So let's go ahead and grab our grommets and start positioning them into their spots. We're gonna start to draw the little indications of where we need to cut the holes for the grommets. So remember, we're working with 3/8 inch grommets. That's what I've written the pattern for. So remember, if you're working with smaller or bigger, this adjustment might change, okay? So where we need to position them is there's gonna be 8 grommets. So 2, 4, 6, and 8. That's what's gonna secure the bag nice and shut when you put the strap in to close it, okay? So starting on the front, we want to start off going 1 inch down and 1/2 inch from the edge. So 1/2 inch from the edge, but 1 inch down. So right there, okay? Draw a little indication. Then what I like to do is grab my little grommet and center that mark in the center of the grommet. And I like to finger press it because finger pressing really does help. It kind of makes a little, you see how it creates a little dent? Instead of trying to draw the circle, creates a little dent, and then I go in and trace out the little circle, okay? So I kind of like to do these one at a time first. I grab my little seam ripper here. I found the seam ripper is definitely the nicer option to start off cutting the hole. And then you're gonna grab scissors to actually cut this circle out. And you are cutting through the layers, okay? So you're cutting that little circle. That's where the grommet's gonna slide in. I had to switch over to the ground, you guys, because it just makes it so much easier. Because the table is soft. It's, you know, it's a little softer. So going on the ground, we have cement on the bottom here, so it just made it a lot easier. So then that way I didn't have to try too hard. And just a little side note about putting the grommets in on the side, because you really want to try to make sure that they're all aligned. Like when you fold these all through, you really should be able to see through and make sure that they're all like symmetrical, because it's just going to look better and it's going to be better when it all closes up too. So what I like to do is kind of like lay this open, and then I'll still do the same measurement. So 1/2 inch from the edge, 1 inch down, and I'll make my little hole, my little circle here. And then I like to place that grommet in the middle, but then I also like to make sure that they're, symmetrical, that they're, gonna be parallel to one another. So once I have that in place, I'll give it that little press like I did. Creates the little circle so it's easier to draw. Again, doesn't have to be perfect because you just gotta make sure that that grommet goes through. So I feel like a surgeon when I'm doing this. Alrighty, so all that's left once you have all your grommets nice and installed is to just weave through the threads, weave through the little, what's this called? Ribbon. You're gonna poke this through. I like to start from the front and then work your way through the inside, and then the ribbon comes out on the side, goes right through here, and then back around the front, just like so. And then here. And then once you're all done, you're gonna grab your ribbon and just create like a little knot at the end to put the two layers together. As close as you can get to the edge, because that way you can like secure it. And then what I like to do is like turn it onto the side, and then you can trim off that little extra there. So that way it's off to the side, and then it closes it nice and shut like that. So this is a perfect little gift to make to a housewarming party, for Thanksgiving, for Christmas, for really any occasion possible. And I really wanted to talk about how this bag can be used not just for wine. I know it's shaped like a wine bag, but when I premiered this pattern for the first time, I actually put like charcuterie items on the inside. It was really fun. I got like salami and cheese and crackers and jam and everything inside. So I like that we made the sample out of this fabric because it was really fun. I think it'd be really sweet to do a gift for somebody and make it like themed for hot chocolate. You could put a little mug in the bottom, put hot chocolate, marshmallows, you know, whatever you want, candy canes, and it's a really well thought out gift. It closes and it's reusable, so they'll be able to use it time and time again. I really hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. I'm excited to be doing more things like this on our channel. Make sure you like and subscribe to our channel since we are constantly posting new content for you. And comment down below, what are you going to be using this bag for? Do you want to use it for wine? Do you want to use it for like a themed gift? I've seen even a couple people in our Facebook group make this bag shorter and use it just for a gift. You could put a candle in there, do whatever you want. You could get really creative with this one. So I hope you guys like it. Have a great rest of your day, and make sure you snap some pictures and tag us so I can see what you used it for.